Some apologies are never spoken, not because the words don't exist, because saying them out loud would expose an entire survival strategy. There is an apology that many gay men carry without realizing it. It slips into conversations, relationships, friendships, dating profiles, hookups, family dinners, and even silence. It isn't spoken with the phrase, "I'm sorry." It's spoken through behavior, through shrinking, through over-explaining, through becoming easy to keep around. Some people spend years apologizing for taking up space without ever saying those exact words. And the frightening part is that the apology usually isn't directed at one person. It's directed at the entire world. Not because they believe they're broken, but because somewhere along the way, existing honestly began to feel expensive. That changes people. Quietly, you can see it in the way someone laughs before admitting what they actually want. You can hear it in the hesitation before introducing a partner. You can feel it in conversations where every opinion is softened before it's expressed. None of it looks dramatic. That's why almost nobody notices it. The hidden apology doesn't scream. It edits. It trims. It negotiates. It asks permission before authenticity even enters the room. Most people imagine shame as something loud. But modern shame is efficient. It becomes personality. It becomes humor. It becomes being low maintenance. It becomes saying, "I'm fine," while mentally calculating whether honesty will cost another relationship. Eventually, apologizing stops feeling like an action. It starts feeling like identity. Modern life doesn't always reject people directly anymore. Sometimes it simply rewards the version that's easiest to consume. Social media taught everyone how to optimize visibility. Dating apps taught everyone how to optimize desirability. Neither taught people how to remain emotionally intact while doing it. That's the contradiction. Being seen has never been easier. Feeling understood has never been harder. So people adapt. Not because adaptation is fake, because adaptation keeps loneliness manageable. For many gay men, emotional editing begins long before dating ever enters the picture. It begins with scanning rooms, listening before speaking, testing reactions before revealing truth, learning which version of yourself creates less friction. Children become experts at emotional forecasting long before they understand why. Some learn that honesty creates tension. Others learn that silence creates safety. Neither lesson disappears automatically in adulthood. The environment changes. The nervous system remembers. That's why someone can be surrounded by acceptance and still feel the urge to apologize for existing. Because emotional survival rarely updates itself automatically. Keeps protecting you from rooms you've already left. Then adulthood introduces something even more confusing. Choice. Now nobody tells you to hide. Yet hiding still feels strangely responsible. You hesitate before expressing affection in public. You overthink every message. You wonder whether you're too much. You become grateful for crumbs because asking for a full meal feels selfish. That isn't always low confidence. Sometimes it's emotional conditioning wearing the mask of humility. People often assume confidence is simply speaking louder. But confidence is also believing your needs don't require justification. When someone has spent years internally negotiating their existence, even ordinary desires begin sounding unreasonable inside their own mind. Can I ask for reassurance? Am I texting too much? Should I pretend I'm less invested? Should I act harder to read? Should I make myself smaller so they stay? Notice how quickly love becomes strategy. The relationship hasn't even started. Yet emotional negotiations have already begun. Modern dating quietly encourages this. Not intentionally, systemically. Apps reward speed. Choice multiplies endlessly. Attention becomes currency. People stop wondering whether someone understands them. They start wondering whether someone will replace them. That creates a different kind of fear. Not abandonment. Substitution. Being emotionally replaced feels different from being rejected. Rejection says no. Replacement whispers that someone almost identical to you was simply more convenient. That idea can haunt people, especially those who already learned to compete against invisibility. So they improve themselves endlessly. Better photos, better body, better conversation, better humor, better emotional control, better timing, better restraint, better performance, until one day they realize they no longer know which parts are improvement and which parts are disappearance. Emotional performance doesn't always look dishonest. Sometimes it looks incredibly kind, always accommodating, always understanding, always available, always forgiving, always patient. Those qualities are beautiful, unless they're being used to earn permission to exist. There is a difference between generosity and self-erasure. One comes from abundance. The other comes from fear. Fear disguises itself well. It says you're simply being considerate. But secretly it's asking the same question over and over. If I become difficult for even one moment, will they stop choosing me? That's an exhausting way to love. Hypervigilance doesn't always look anxious. Sometimes it looks observant. Reading facial expressions, checking message timestamps, listening for changes in tone, replaying conversations, searching for invisible shifts. Not because someone enjoys overthinking, because uncertainty once carried consequences. The mind becomes an emotional security camera, always recording, always scanning, always expecting the moment affection quietly changes direction. That changes intimacy. People confuse closeness with constant monitoring. They mistake emotional surveillance for emotional connection. But watching someone carefully isn't the same as feeling safe with them. Interpretation analyzes. Understanding relaxes. Many people have mastered the first. Very few experience the second. Then comes another hidden apology. Over-explaining. Every decision requires context. Every boundary needs evidence. Every feeling needs supporting documentation. As though existing honestly must pass a trial before becoming acceptable. The explanation grows longer. The self grows smaller. Eventually, people stop hearing your point. They're only hearing your permission request. Modern culture accidentally rewards this. Algorithms favor clarity over complexity. Quick labels over evolving identities. Certainty over nuance. Human beings aren't built that way. Especially not people who've spent years translating themselves for everyone else. Translation is tiring. Not because your identity is confusing. Because you're constantly calculating what someone else is prepared to understand. That calculation steals energy. Quietly. Imagine introducing yourself every day while editing half the sentence before it leaves your mouth. Eventually, editing becomes automatic. You stop noticing it. Other people don't see exhaustion. They see composure. But composure can hide remarkable loneliness. There is a loneliness that comes from being alone. Then there is the loneliness of being known incorrectly. The second one is harder to explain. because everyone believes they know you. Even you begin believing the edited version. Identity doesn't always disappear dramatically. Sometimes it dissolves through convenience. One compromise, then another, until authenticity feels unfamiliar. Not because you rejected yourself, because you slowly prioritized emotional safety over emotional accuracy. That trade feels logical. Until it doesn't. Some people become experts at being wanted. Very few become experts at being witnessed. Those are different experiences. Desire notices surfaces. Understanding notices patterns. Attention arrives quickly. Recognition takes time. The internet rewards attention. The human heart survives on recognition. That's why someone can receive endless compliments and still feel emotionally invisible. Being desired publicly is not the same as being understood privately. Those realities rarely overlap automatically. And when they don't, another apology quietly appears. I'm sorry you have to deal with me. I'm sorry I'm complicated. I'm sorry I caught feelings. I'm sorry I need reassurance. The exact words vary. The emotional message stays the same. Please don't mistake my humanity for inconvenience. That sentence breaks more hearts than people realize. Because the person saying it usually believes they're being realistic. Not tragic. Realistic. They've simply collected enough experiences to assume their emotional needs are negotiable. Over time, emotional negotiation becomes emotional identity. Then something strange happens. When someone finally offers genuine acceptance, it feels suspicious. Not comforting. Because unconditional care conflicts with years of emotional mathematics. The mind waits for hidden conditions. The bill, the disappointment, the withdrawal, the catch. When none arrives, some people create one themselves. Not because they enjoy chaos. Because certainty feels safer than hope. Hope can disappear. Prediction feels controllable. So they prepare for endings before beginnings have fully started. This isn't manipulation. It's emotional weather forecasting. If you've lived through enough storms, blue skies can feel temporary. That doesn't mean healing is impossible. It means the nervous system measures safety differently than logic does. Modern conversations often celebrate visibility. Visibility matters. Representation matters. Acceptance matters. But emotional history doesn't vanish simply because society becomes more supportive. The body remembers older rules. The heart remembers earlier negotiations. Healing isn't forgetting. It's discovering that yesterday's protection doesn't have to become tomorrow's personality. That realization arrives slowly. Sometimes through one friendship. Sometimes through one relationship. Sometimes through one ordinary moment where nobody asks you to become smaller. Moments like that can feel almost unreal, because they expose something painful. How much effort you've spent apologizing without words. The hidden apology was never only about sexuality. It was about permission. Permission to occupy emotional space without earning it first. Permission to disappoint someone without disappearing. Permission to ask without rehearsing. Permission to exist without performing gratitude for every ounce of acceptance. That's the apology almost nobody hears. Because it isn't spoken. It's lived. Every day. In tiny decisions. Tiny hesitations. Tiny edits. Tiny withdrawals. Until they accumulate into an identity built more around anticipation than authenticity. The deepest emotional damage is rarely believing that nobody loves you. It's believing love requires constant adjustment from you to remain possible. That belief reshapes everything. Relationships, friendships, dreams, boundaries, even joy, because joy becomes cautious. Excitement becomes filtered. Confidence becomes conditional. Life becomes a sequence of emotional permissions waiting to be approved by someone else. Then one day an uncomfortable realization appears. Maybe the loudest apology was never spoken to other people at all. Maybe it was spoken inward, again and again. Every time you dismissed your own instincts. Every time you minimized your own hurt. Every time you convinced yourself that taking up less space was the kind thing to do. That hidden apology doesn't protect identity forever. Eventually, it begins erasing it. Not all at once. Quietly. Over time. Until the hardest sentence isn't, "I love you." It becomes something much simpler. "I don't need permission to be here." Because the opposite of the hidden apology isn't arrogance. It isn't defiance. It isn't emotional perfection. It's the quiet refusal to keep negotiating your own humanity. The world may still misunderstand you sometimes. People may still leave. Algorithms may still reward performance over authenticity. But there comes a moment when surviving by becoming smaller costs more than existing honestly ever could. And that moment changes everything. Not because life suddenly becomes easy. Because the apology finally ends. Not out loud. Inside.